Once again, a quick little prelude before we start the video here. For those of you guys looking to play the game, tomorrow we start double XP within World War II, and it's not something like Winter Siege in which it is only playlist specific. This is double XP and double weapon XP across the board for everybody playing any single mode, all throughout multiplayer and zombies as well. So if you guys want to grind out some zombies throughout the week, you want to take a break from multiplayer or something like that, that's always an option as well. But I want to let you guys know real quickly before we start the video that tomorrow, Friday, January 5th, double XP starts at probably 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I believe 6 p.m. GMT. But that said, once again, just want to give you guys the quick heads up before we jump into the video. So let's get right into it. And I'm not sure how many of you guys end up watching the community as a whole for Call of Duty, if it's something you pay too much attention to what people say here and there, or if it's something in which you just play the game, you don't really think too much about any outside influences, and you just stick to doing you. Whichever path you follow, it's totally cool, it doesn't matter which, but one may keep you more so in tune with something that can be heard around the watering hole as of recently, and that is something to do with some nerfs coming within World War II, or proposed nerfs. Nothing right now, I should say, is on the table and on the horizon for being set in stone and something that is going to be definitively nerfed within World War II, but it's something that is a hot topic of discussion as of lately, and I wanted to touch on it, why you guys might be affected by this, and if you are, make sure that you use this weapon before it ends up getting touched. But the big hot topic of discussion within the community right now is the M1 Garand. Now the M1 is not my favorite weapon, and it definitely takes some getting used to and warming up to do anything insane with it, but at its core, the thing is statistically a monster. Now, the M1 is a semi-auto rifle geared more towards mid and long range play, and if you pop on a 4 times on it, you'll be able to line up just about anything in any single range with ease. I'm not the biggest fan of the attachment though, I feel like I can do just fine without it, but for those that want pinpoint precise accuracy, that is something that of course always helps out. But statistically, the weapon is insane in a couple of areas, but most prominently, that being the damage, and that is what is the catalyst for this whole topic of discussion on nerfing it. The only time that the M1 drops below a 2-shot kill is at extreme range. And I'm talking range that rivals that of a sniper. The kind of range that SMGs and other auto rifles would have a tough time controlling recoil at that distance. So anything closer than that point is a 2-shot guaranteed, whether you hit a headshot first or 2 chest shots. It's something that is ridiculously powerful at its base. Now, once again, at its raw statistics, the 2-shot nearly anywhere, of course, at range starts to drop off to that 3-shot, but you also should take into consideration that penetration kills give 1 or potentially 2 extra shots needed depending on the surface, previous damage to the enemy, shots landed, locations of the shots, and so on and so forth. A ton of different variables intermittently throughout, but the M1 is one of very few 2-shot mobile weapons within the game. We talked about right after launch that the Bren was a monster because it had 2-shot potential, but if we look at it objectively and unbiased, it is something that it sucks in literally almost every other aspect other than that. The fire rate's awful, the mobility's awful, the reload speed's awful, the ADS speed is awful. It's just downright bad except for the damage that it inflicts. Now the M1 is almost the polar opposite in those regards. The M1 has a standard AR ADS, and with quick draw it improves a little bit, save for whenever you're sprinting out, because sprints out times within this game and quick draw are still bugged if you put them together. The reload is a standard and relatively fast. The ammo capacity is solid, especially with extended mags. Recoil is moderate to high, but manageable as the center speed is fast, so instead of spraying, a quick tap will bring your aim back to center and almost to the exact center in that time frame. So just slowing down your shot ever so slightly can almost completely get rid of the recoil that the weapon has. Bearing all that in mind though, it's a powerhouse in a lot of situations, but with that said, it's also a very situational weapon. It's best used for maps with longer lines of sight like Gustav, USS Texas, Saint-Marie Dumont worked well, Ardennes. These sorts of maps are fantastic for the weapon, but they all share one common ground with predominantly more open area, longer lines of sights, and the ability to control a fight by not having somebody with a PPSH spraying as they're so close that the muzzle is down your throat. It's a medium to longer range weapon by all accounts, and if you test it out, you'll definitely notice that very quickly. And I think one of the exceptions is how you play the map itself. The one gameplay I believe is going to be in the background at one point is point to hawk, and I would never run through the trenches with the M1 as I would with a shotgun or an SMG, because once again, we talked about sprint out times being broken as is, but with this being a slower ADS speed and a slower sprint out time compared to SMGs. It's something that, of course, already offers a disadvantage, but then the fact it's a semi-auto instead of an auto and all that, well, it just starts to compound and you can see where the problems would arise. But I place myself in that gameplay in the wide open, seeing sightlines into trenches and almost making the map's sightlines longer just by my approach to the situation. Therefore, despite being in a disadvantageous position, I can control my engagements in the play of the gunfights to some extent, which is truthfully all I need to feel comfortable to take that kind of fight. So while it's something that, of course, at its core, putting yourself where I was, patrolling the area how I was, it's something you're wide open and you could easily get killed, but if you're conscious enough, it's something you can make it work. So those sorts of engagements and situations within each map really depend on how you take the gunfight, how you can make yourself bigger in those positions, and how you can really dictate the play and the flow of it. But is the weapon OP? Is the M1 really this powerful to the point where it's something we definitely need a nerf for it? Well, I guess it depends on the context you're using it in. If you're gunning people on Gustav or Ardennes, sure, it could be considered OP, but if you're playing on Point to Hawk, you almost voluntarily put yourself at a disadvantage depending on how you end up playing the map. But it has created enough of a stir in the community as of recently, and if you follow Twitter, which, cheeky plug, you can follow me over on Twitter if you guys want to stay connected outside of YouTube. I'm always on Twitter, so if you guys want to stay up to date with anything outside of just a one-a-day video or one-a-day video in a stream, that's probably the best place to do so. But if you guys have a Twitter, you may have seen some of the COD pros talk about this and the need for it. While many of you might not have the slightest care for professional play and competitive within COD, the balance of weapons is sometimes driven by the data pulled from events and professional feedback. If you remember the nerfs right back before Christmas, we ended up getting the FG42 fire rate nerfed and then the machine pistol damage nerfed as well. Those were actually a direct result of the use and the power of them at CWL Dallas a couple of days before that. They were, without a doubt, the most used things in the competitive play and the competitive world by far before that nerf, so it kind of brought it down to a more equalizing level. But that said, with the nerfs done though, one of the more meta weapons amongst pros recently has been this very exact M1, which many are not happy for because it's a two-shot, and especially on land, you notice it 10 times more. Telling you that from experience, the accuracy of the pros and a two-shot weapon, well, it almost nullifies the need for any other weapon if you're gonna need to take an extra 2 or 3 shots of your weapon to counter what they have in an M1. So while a nerf, like I said, is not specifically on the horizon coming definitively for the M1, it's a hot debate and it's on the table, but now Sledgehammer has to respond how they feel necessary. And to give you my thoughts on this, I understand where a lot of people totally do not like the fact that maybe this is catering to that 1% of players, because let's face it, there are millions of players that have logged into World War II since launch, and of the pro scene, there's probably the stable 100 pros that have a massive influence on the community in terms of they're very well known within the community. So that's something that 1%, of course, is kind of dictating how the game plays out. And I understand the argument that they are the ones that play the game the most, they dedicate their days to it because it is their technical 9 to 5, if you want to put it that way. They're being paid to practice, to play in these events and everything like that, but I also just don't know how I feel about it at its core. I think it basically boils down to the fact that nerfs will balance weaponry or open maybe even avenues for new weapons. And honestly, I get comments about it all the time in the comment section of videos at various points during the year already. Stuff like, oh, you're using the bar, oh, you're using the Kar 98K, or oh, you're using whatever weapon is hot at that specific time. That sort of stuff is always going to happen, and meta weapons will always be a thing within Call of Duty, or any other game, I guess, in that particular fashion. You're never gonna have a lobby of players using all different weaponry unless it's a game, say, like Rainbow Six Siege, where you need to have varying playstyles and tactics. COD is way more leisurely, and so players will always gravitate towards a select few weapons they know will help them do well. But the point of debate almost breaks down to the listening to one community compared to the casual 99% on the other community. So I understand essentially all sides, and if I were to give you the potential out, I'm almost impartial to it at the moment, because if it happens, it happens. Because right now, it's all just debate and speculation. For all we know, it'll be forgotten by next week, to which, if that happens, well, definitely give the M1 a go right now, learn it, master it, and love it for the rest of World War II. But that said, I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback here on this one. What do you think? Do you think this deserves a nerf? Do you think it's something in which we're thinking way too much about it? Maybe it's something the pros have too much influence on the game? Do you think it's something that maybe they're entirely justified in saying so, but you don't want to see it happen, that a nerf comes down to it, or whatever it may be? Feel free to let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Once again, it is a hot topic of discussion, so feel free to give me your take. I don't think there is a right or wrong answer at this point, because again, as with a lot of these discussions we open up to, it's subjective. It's something that really comes down to you, the individual, and how you play the game, how you feel about the game, and what it might end up meaning for you in the long run. So feel free to let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you do not miss a single thing here within World War II. Any best tips, tricks, news, class setups, all that good stuff, we got you covered here up on the channel. So if any of it interests you, or anything in particular with World War II interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you do not miss a single thing. And finally, if you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, that's the best place to get connected with me outside of YouTube. Practically live on Twitter, so if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, link is down there in the description below. But all that said, Natalie, I hope you guys had a fantastic day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.